Well, good day. My name is Kevin Juza. I'm the president of the San Diego Chapter of American Association of Inside Sales Professionals. I'm excited to share a new program we're implementing in our chapter called the Spotlight Award. Going forward, we'll hope to identify local leaders in the inside sales profession in San Diego market and give them a spotlight to share some of their best practices. I am thrilled to announce our first recipient of the San Diego Chapter of AA-ISP Spotlight Award is going to Chris Gardner, Vice President of Sales at Measurabl. Chris, as you know, Kathleen Glass, mutual friends, and officer of our chapter, nominated you as a Spotlight Award because she was so impressed with how authentic your BDR team speaks with prospects and customers and how you have led them over the past year. I'd like to congratulate you on the Spotlight Award.
Thank you, Kevin. It's very nice it's a pleasure to meet with you, and very nice to support AA-ISP today.
Great. Well, why don't you give us a little background, introduce yourself, tell us about Measurable, and describe the team that you have there.
Sure, be glad to. So my background, I'm experienced in pretty much every facet of sales management. Been doing it for about 20 years, mostly in software and SaaS. So I feel like I bring a bit of experience to my teams. Measurable is a business intelligence platform here in San Diego. We gather data, we provide analysis, and we report on sustainability. Other people may know it as ESG or environmental, social, and governance. So we do that. We're the leader in our space. And we primarily have a market of commercial real estate companies, some of the largest in the world, but we also have very large enterprise as well that use Measurable to talk about and report on their ESG.
Great. And what size team do you work with, and what are their functions?
Sure. So I have, a nice team for a medium range startup. We're in our Series B and doing very, very well. My team is comprised of the functions of, we call it business development representatives or inside sales. I have account managers, executives who are closing business, and I have a channel team, and then I do have a sales enablement arm.
Oh, so you have the full gamut.
I have a piece of everything, but we're pretty small. We're less than 20 all told, and okay. I do have a 3 headcount in Europe because we are a global company, and Europe is actually, from a sustainability standpoint, a little bit ahead of the U.S. So they're a very good market for us.
Right. Well, with COVID, everything you talked about the market with commercial real estate, that seems very, very good time to help that market out with all the changes going on in commercial real estate.
Yeah, it's an exploding market right now. I'm very fortunate that I get to see this market take off. And of course, Measurable was early to it with a leading product. So it's an exciting time, especially for somebody in sales management, to be able to have that work process where we're growing as a company, we're becoming more sophisticated in our sales process, but also the market is becoming more sophisticated. We're always having to answer those types of things. So we're seeing 2 things that grow, and we're trying to keep up on one hand and lead in the other. So it's a real exciting time.
Great. What do you think sets you apart as a leader to work with the dynamics of your team?
Well, thanks for asking. I would say, I alluded to my experience. So I've had, as I said, about 20 years actually in the software and sales management.
Right.
I have worked with a number of startups and also mid-sized companies, throwing a couple of larger ones in there. And I've often been responsible for building out sales teams in some maybe transition or what have you. I think what I like to think I bring to it is the ability to thoughtfully think through all the models I've had, using some of those very standard ideas that are out there, but then build it for where we are as a company in our maturity, and then where the market is. And that's make that marriage between, here are some really good best practices, here's the ones we need to lean on because this is what our market or our maturity as a company dictates us to do. With that said, as things grow, and why it's fun for sales management is when those markets are maturing, you're rapidly going through them. What was important 6 months ago is not that important now. As an example of that would be, a demo is a very important for a startup to get out there and do that. That finally will roll off as you mature, the market matures, and you mature as a company to be something that lengthens your sales cycle. When does that happen? When do you implement and things like that? Those are the fun things I like to do.
Cool. So as Kathleen complimented you on the authentic voice of your team, what do you think you do to kind of create that type of atmosphere where your BDRs feel so comfortable to speak, normal instead of feeling like a robot or from a script?
Right. Well, again, it has a lot to do with what market you're in, what's the maturity of your company. But Measurable has been a little bit of an evolution for myself too, which is always nice. We do have a very robust, and I inherited them. I've been with them about a year, and they're about a 7-year-old company. I inherited an excellent BDR team. They spend a lot more time researching and determining how to go to even a contact or a prospective customer than I have in the past. 20 years ago, we were dialing, smiling, and going through it. Now it's much more, what can I bring to the customer right out of the gate that will be meaningful to them? It's meaningful to the industry. That was a good step in BDRs to be able to say, these are the important things from the industry we need to talk about. But what's important to them? Can we get can we get a company profile and a persona profile that allows them to quickly determine, here are some of the things that will probably be interesting to them and that I should engage with them, either via email with some templates that they craft, and also on those phone messages and live phone calls when they come to you.
Right. Over the past year, the way we've had to adapt through the pandemic, what do you think you learned about yourself as a leader in this new environment that we've been forced into?
Yeah, it's been an interesting year, hasn't it? And fortunately for Measurable, we did have some wobbles from our market had some wobbles, but as a market, we held up pretty well. So as a company, we've been very fortunate to make our numbers and do the things we thought we were going to do in 2020, despite the fact that we really did 10 months worth of work in 12 months, kind of how it looked. The thing for me, and just on a personal level, was I am amazed at how important my routine is to me. I've worked from home before, and I've been on the road, and I've done the 50% of my time on the road and had my home office before. And so when this happened, we went out about very end of March. We've been home ever since. I was like, oh, well, I'm set up for this, but my team maybe hasn't. So let me concentrate on them. But I was surprised at myself. It took me, I'd like to say 3 or 4 weeks. It was probably like 5 or 6 weeks to really get out of the mindset that, oh, this is what we're doing now. This is not just I stayed at home from work because I had a dentist appointment, or I was in this mindset of I'm going back to work next week, or I'm doing this. So I was very temporary, and part of getting out of that was, let's get some routines in place. And those routines had not only to do with me personally, but also the team, right? How are we collaborating? Well, we're not going to hit each other in the hallways, and we're not going to see that. I'm a guy who likes to walk the bullpen. And it just wasn't available to me anymore. So can I be proactive about adding some collaboration events throughout all our calendars without taking too much, time away from everybody to make sure that happened? It was a real proactive thought to go through that. I'm, again, very fortunate to have come into a situation where I have a stellar team, and they're really on top of everything. And I've learned a lot from them as well. So that's been great.
And, thinking about the way the pandemic has happened, and let's hypothetically think by 2022, we're back to freely able to move amongst our community more safely and all that. What do you think we will take with us from this year and a half of learning experiment that we kind of all went through?
Yeah, that's it. There is going to be some things, right? So it's interesting that it's not just a subtle thing. There's been some real changes in both in how we do business and interact as a company, but also how we take our message to market. A couple of things just on the business side is the flexibility. So like I said, we've done well at Measurable. It was a question, and we had really great support from all executive staff, and especially our CEO, who really just made it real clear day one that we're all going to have a job until none of us have a job, if it's going to be the worst of the worst. And that was a heck of a message to send out to a team. It was really a rallying point. And he meant it, and he's a terrific CEO. But the idea that we can be flexible. You know, I am a old hand at sales, and I like people in the office, and I like them in the bullpen. I like to hear the phones. I like to walk over and talk about that.
Right.
That's not necessarily how we need to conduct business. We can give the flexibility for our team to work from home if it makes sense. I'm one that wants to get back in the office as soon as possible, but not everybody is. And that's going to be a bit of a change from our internal workings of the sales organization. I think from the customer standpoint, it's really dynamic, where best practices were around, you know, virtual sales and things like that. Now that is the tool we have, and it's working quite well. And it's not just, are we using it well? Are customers adapting to it well? And there's been some need for them to do that too, but I've seen them move into, yeah, you know, this virtual sales process is okay. We can do that. We do have, you know, a average contract value that has a large range, but we do have quite large six-figure contracts. And I would always just immediately say, you got to go out and visit them. Don't, you know, I'm not going to even accept an order until you've been in front of them. Now it's like, you know, no, we can close, you know, $200,000 or $300,000 over a virtual environment. That's fine. They're happy. It works out. Our enabling that through our customer success team works very well. It's just been beneficial on both sides to see this thing work, and this is how we can go about business. The other piece of it, though, that is interesting on the customer side is really kind of a shock, right? You have a CRM, you have email addresses, you have phone numbers. Well, those phone numbers, they're not good anymore because everybody's working from home. Do you have their cell phone number? Probably not. Probably about 20% of our CRM had cell phone numbers into it. What do you do with the other 80% who are important? That goes to, well, then we need to engage with them. And that's where you get back to the BDR, and what's really important for inside sales is I no longer can kind of spot dial them throughout the day and maybe catch them after lunch. I now have to get them to truly engage with me because they're at home, they're working off their cell phone, and you know, at least early in, they were working off their cell phone. So I need to really present them some information in a way that'll get them to think about it and respond to me. That is, again, it was best. That's always best practices. Now it's just the practice. It's how you do it now, and I think that will continue. I think that really will.
Great. Well, a little bit, how long have you been an AISP member, and why do you stay engaged?
So I've been a paying member for 2 to 3 years, I think, but I was engaged with it long before that. I do enjoy our San Diego chapter, and I've also benefited from going up to Orange County, and they have a very nice chapter up there too. So, you know, it's very nice to meet people that in the AA-ISP, in at least my experience with the chapters I've been to, they all are very, very open and welcoming and want to learn, and the collaboration that comes from it. San Diego, I'm quite lucky to have this as a home chapter, I believe. The San Diego chapter of ISP, AA-ISP, to me, just to say it this way, I think we punch above our weight, but we don't know it. And what I mean by that is very professional, very solid. You want to learn about inside sales and adjacent areas like sales enablement. It's a great place to go to meet, network, listen, and find out and get your questions answered. But we're also extremely welcoming, you know, and open to people coming in. So I think that's the other side of it, where we may not know how we punch above our weight, is that first time you're just coming to learn. If you're a CEO and just want to try to figure out what these sales managers talk about, come on in, you'll learn a lot, you'll be extremely welcome, and it's a very nice place to go. What got me paying are the resources. The resource tab in the AA-ISP website is stellar. And it actually is why I started paying, because I needed access to it and unfettered. And it's been something I've used a lot. I think I've, as I mentioned, been around a bit, but I always learn something new. And, you know, it's great for somebody who may be experienced, because it's a lot easier to take that data in and understand it and fit it into your current circumstance. So if you're a beginner or somebody who's been doing this a long time, feel yourself an expert in it. If you're open-minded about what you guys are giving us, it's fantastic, and it's really made a difference in a number of places for me.
Awesome, Chris. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations for being our first San Diego Chapter Spotlight Award recipient. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Kevin. Good luck on all the other ones. I appreciate it.